Good afternoon, Facebook. Good afternoon, challengers. It is 11:20, and I am going to take 5 minutes of your time, hopefully to add some value. This is my 5-minute Facebook Live. I haven't been on here in quite a bit, and so just wanted to reach out today and talk to you about why your why precedes your lifestyle. What does all that mean? Hey, Alex. All that means is basically, and I'm gonna make an illustration with a conversation I had. That person, when they hear this, they'll know I'm talking about them. And I was on my way out and getting into my car, and hey, Florcy, and they were coming into the gym, and that person had just come out of the challenge, right? And that person got really close to winning the challenge. I think they were probably like 3-4 pounds away from actually winning, from actually hitting the 25 pound mark. And so when they came out of the challenge, I said, hey, let's keep doing the same exact thing you've been doing for the past 6 weeks. And I want you to aim for 25 and then 30 pounds because this person needed to, that was their goal. They needed to lose, if I remember correctly, between 30 to 40 pounds, right? And so the idea was that this person would continue to do the same thing. Now, this person was strict. I mean, they were doing the cardios. I think that she had a slip up or two here and there, but for the most part, this person was on track. And so, I say that because the idea was that this person would continue to do the same thing even after the challenge. And so when I bumped into her in the parking lot, I said, hey, you hit that 25 pound mark yet? And she started laughing, and she said, I knew you were going to ask me that. I knew you were going to ask me that. And she said, I've actually gone back a little bit. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I allowed myself to eat this and do that. And interestingly enough, I use this illustration not to call her out, but more importantly, because that tends to be what people do when, hey, Diane, when they come off the challenge, right? They're enthusiastic. Some of them hit the 25 pound, even 30 pound mark. Some of them hit 6% body fat. And then there's no progression after that, right? They tend to get stagnant. They tend to forget about everything they were doing, and they just kind of loosen up, right? And either head in the opposite direction, or even worse, like you talk to them several months later and they're like, oh, I put all the weight back on. And I'm just like, no, like you were doing awesome. Like why? Why? And the reason for that is because, I dig into these things, right? If you want to know what I think about all day long, I think about what makes people tick and why some people succeed, some people don't, why some people actually make a lifestyle out of this versus just a fad diet. A fad diet is something you do for a little bit and then you just kind of get off of it and you go your own way and you do your own thing. Why does it happen so often? Why is there such a small percentage of people that actually make this a lifestyle? And I can tell you that the main factor that changes everything for people that stay consistent on this is their why, right? And I know that sounds cliche, and I know that you see a lot of the life coaches and gurus talking to you about your why and how important your why is. But I can tell you right now that our cognitive process is to think, to feel, and to act. When something hits your brain, if your emotions aren't touched, you're not really compelled to move forward and do it. Let me give you an example of that. Someone can tell you, man, there's people on the other side of the world starving, and you're just like, yeah, man, I wish I could help. But then there's another example of that is when you actually fly over to, say, Africa, and you see kids on the side of the road with no clothes, barefoot, that haven't had a meal in days, and that hits your brain, hits your emotions, and then that leads you to action. And when you come back, you're completely changed. Like, you see things different. You're more appreciative of the food that you have on the table. You start to value things differently. You start to kind of realize that we have it really good here. And then you possibly even start to donate money to these kids because your emotions were touched, right? So I tell you all this to tell you that until your emotions are touched on this whole fitness and nutrition thing, you won't change, right? When I see people walk through the gym floor, through that gym door and say, hey, I just got a diagnosis, or I just came from the doctors and he just read all my blood work, and I'm about to head in the direction of type 2 diabetes, and I'm gonna have to get on meds, or I had an EKG in my heart, I'm hypertensive, and there are the possibilities of X, Y, Z. It's those people that truly make the biggest changes in their lives, right? And with that being said, those two, once the scare goes away, they can default back into their normal settings. But my point with this video is that you need to find a why that's strong enough that will compel you to not just do this for 6 weeks, but to continue to do it, to continue to move forward, to continue to prep your meals, to continue to make a lifestyle out of this. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I've told you my story, how I started to do all this fitness thing. Well, I've always been into fitness, but let's just say meal prepping, working out, really just watching my food and all that stuff, and training hard once my soccer career ended. And at that point, my motivation was very, very superficial. The motivation there was, I was a midfielder. I used to run between anywhere from 8 to 15 miles a game, and I was a twig, right? And I've always been short. Like I think I'm 5'7". Most people are like, no, you're not. You're 5'6". But I want to think I'm 5'7". And so I've always been short. I think I stopped growing when I was like 12. And on top of that, I was just tiny. I was 135 pounds, and I'm like, man, I want to look like a man. So when my career ended, my motivation was to put some meat on my bones. And that took me so far, right? In my 20s, it was that. Then I wanted to look good without my shirt on when I was at the beach, and I wanted to attract the ladies, and yada, yada, yada. In my 30s, when I was a single guy, I guess that motivation was kind of still there to look good. But then I got married, right? And I was like, okay, well, I know I got to continue to look good for my wife, but more importantly, man, I see this little thing running around called my daughter, who's 3 years old. And if you guys have kids, you'll understand where I'm coming from. But it's just the most amazing feeling to see this little person that looks like you running around, and you just want to be around as long as possible to especially with daughters. I'm gonna have two. I have one on the way, June 24th, and I want to be able to walk them down the aisle. I want to be there for them. I don't want to be an old man. I don't want them to see their old man with a little belly sticking out. Like, no, I want them to be proud and to hopefully role model that lifestyle that we're teaching them now. And that's a huge motivation for me. It's huge. It's always top of mind for me. I want to make sure that I'm teaching my daughters, this is in my household, right? Number one, about God. Number two, on respect and morals and principles. And then, also how to eat properly. That's so important. Most of us forget about that. Like that is part of the education process, right? You want to make sure your kids are eating the right food so that down the road they won't struggle with obesity, and they won't struggle with heart conditions, and I can go on and on and on. And so I have taken that very personal, and so I want to embody that. I want to be congruent with my message. I don't just want to preach eat your vegetables and then I'm eating cupcakes on the side. And so that is my why. That is what keeps me going. And I can tell you that that always just fuels me to do my cardio, to eat properly, to get my workouts in, to make sure I'm taking care of myself, to make sure that I'm getting sufficient sleep, to make sure I'm drinking enough water, right? And so that's my motivation. So my question to you is, what is yours? Like, what is going to keep you going after these 6 weeks? And some of you guys have stayed on this page that already went through the 6-week challenge. Where are you guys at, right? Have you hit 25 pounds if that was your goal? Have you hit 30 pounds if that was your goal? Did you drop to 6% body fat? Are you making this a lifestyle? Interestingly, and I'll leave you just with this, we sold this challenge for a really, really long time, many years, for $800. And we used to sell this thing like hotcakes, right? We would sell it. That's a bad illustration for a nutrition plan, but you get the point. We used to sell this thing actually virtually in Spain and London. Like, we had clients out there that were doing this and were extremely successful with the plan. And we were selling it for $800. That's what it cost. There was no wager, no money back, none of that stuff. And we were selling like hotcakes, but our success rate was only 30%. And the game changer for us was when we actually added a wager where you got your money back, which was like, I was like, what this is telling me is that people value money more than their own health, right? Wow. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, yes, we all like money, but man, I want to care about myself. I care more about my well-being than I do about, you know, some paper with with disease presidents on it. I really care more about my health and how I feel and my quality of life. That's the motivator for me. So I know I've talked a lot. I'll leave you with that. Hopefully you got something out of it. Comment below. Let me know if anything was unclear. If you disagree, that's fine. I just want to make sure that this concept, you guys got this concept, and that you're incorporating. Talk to you guys soon. Ciao.